So who's dumb enough to take a film that already doesn't have very much latitude and then scan it on a scanner that's notorious for having no latitude? Well, me. If you're interested in motion picture film, stay tuned. So we began pre-production on my first professionally funded movie, and of course I wanted to shoot film, and more specifically I really wanted to shoot Kodak Ektachrome 100, but obviously it's way too expensive and we just didn't have money in the budget to get it properly telecined. So I ended up whipping out my Wolverine Digitizer. We decided to run some camera tests to see if this is even a viable option. And my friend Michael and I ended up going to this park and we took a general reading at the park, and the overall reading was for an f/16. So I did a couple tests. The first test was the overall reading. If you want to see details on the subject, they need to be close. You can see that now. I don't know if you took this to a proper telecin, if you would be able to see the details, because as you can see on the paper, he wrote the exposure, so f/16, and you cannot see it in this. So make sure if you have detailed shots that the subject is close enough. We started with f/5.6, so obviously very blown out, no information. Then we moved to 8, still pretty blown out. Not any information. I would not be able to use this. We got 11. I still don't think we could be able to use this. And then we ended up going to 16, which is the right exposure. And here's the last test. And I think this is where you're gonna get the most information from. So I kind of want to focus on it. We start at f/8. You can tell it's very blown out. And so that's 2 stops below. And then I did 2 stops above. So then we went to f/32. And this is where it's actually interesting. You actually have a usable image at f/32. You're really giving up. Any shadow detail is gone. But if you're shooting something in the general, f/32 wasn't awful. Like, you could definitely work with it, especially in like post color correcting and stuff. That was a little surprising to me. So then we went to f/16. Obviously that's the exposure that we got. And then we went to f/11, pretty hot, not that great. Then we went to f/8 and not a usable image. And then we went back to f/16, and this is what was interesting. And I think if I were to shoot this film again, this is probably where I'd live, depending on the scene. So f/16, it's a little bit hot. And that was the general reading. We ended up shooting at a fat/16, and I think this was kind of the best exposure of it. So fat/16, for those of you who don't know, is basically like right in between f/16 and like f/22. On the Super 8 camera I'm using, it's the Canon AutoZoom 518 SV. It goes straight from f/16 to f/32. So the fat/16 I'm thinking would be closer to like a f/22, but I don't think we went all the way to f/22. So it's right in between f/22 and f/16. I believe it's called either a fat/16 or a skinny 22. So I think if I were to shoot this film again, if I got an f/16 reading, I think I would shoot it. If I really wanted the contrast and I really wanted the colors of the film, I think I'd shoot it at a half a stop or even a quarter a stop more than what it was reading, which is usually the opposite. Usually when you're experimenting with a film, you kind of want to shoot a little under, but I kind of like the way this looked. And then we went back to the 32, and then the film rolled out. But you can see I'll have a freeze frame here where you can kind of see what f/32 looked like. And I have to say I was pretty surprised. I wasn't that surprised, but I was pretty surprised that you were able to overexpose it so much and still get kind of a usable image. Motion picture film, we have a little bit more leeway with our stuff because people aren't looking at a single frame. So if it's a quick cut and then you cut away, you might be able to actually use this footage. And so it's just interesting to know. If you're kind of worried about overexposing it, I would say maybe don't go all the way to the f/32, but inch toward the 22, or maybe inch toward a fat f-stop of whatever you're reading. And I think that's how you're going to get the best exposure using Ektachrome 100 and the Wolverine Digitizer. To say all that, when we shot, we ended up just using the exposures. Honestly, the footage came out so good in the film. We used these as like flashback scenes, and we shot the film on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K RAW. I didn't do the Blackmagic up-resing because I tried that on a previous video and there was no difference from just zooming it in Premiere. It held up. Almost everyone I showed the movie to really liked the Ektachrome footage from the Wolverine Digitizer. That some of their favorite shots of the movie came from this. So as long as you're using it strategically, this is an option. It has a lot of contrast. The colors are very vibrant. It's even for the low resolution. 1080p file that you get, it's actually pretty impressive. Again, this is motion picture film, so we can, if we're intercutting it with other footage, people aren't going to pay as much of attention to it as like a still image. I'm really happy with how this footage came out. I'm really happy with this film stock, and if you have the Wolverine Digitizer and you're shooting films on your own, Ektachrome 100 is definitely part of your arsenal. You definitely need to be more careful with it. Pick your scenes, pick the time of day you're shooting wisely. If you want high contrast, you can pretty much shoot any time of the day. If you want to be able to see a lot of information in the shadows, well, if you want to see a lot of information, the Wolverine Digitizer is not going to be your option. But if you want to see more information in the shadows, you probably need to schedule out your day. We didn't test during magic hour because we were filming in the desert. I knew the times we were shooting. We weren't ever going to shoot at magic hour. I would say if you want to have a more even frame, less contrast, you're going to have to plan the way you shoot it and make sure you shoot at a time where the light's more soft and more even. Now, in saying that, we haven't projected the film on a big screen yet. I believe we're going to have a screening in October. That's going to be in a movie theater. We'll see how it goes there. But as far as the actual distribution platform of Shannon Fabrics, it's worked great. People have loved it. Maybe in a future video, I'll have a little blurb where I talk about that and see. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'm happy to answer them. I'll actually even put the camera test footage in the description for people to download if you want to download it and really take a look at it for yourself. Before we go, I said it on my last video. I'm going to say it probably for the foreseeable future. If you would like to see my short film Lone Pine, it comes free with a purchase of any of the Lone Pine fabrics through Shannon Fabrics. In the description below, there is an interactive document that has links to where you can purchase the Lone Pine fabrics. The first option is Cali Quilt Co., which is a fabric shop I'm actually pretty close with. They are very on it with this film. If you purchase the film, you're gonna get the card. The other companies below it, I'm not quite sure. I've been getting emails from their customers that they're not getting the card. So if you're going to purchase it, I would recommend Cali Quilt Co. If you want to purchase it from one of the other links and they don't send you a card, please email me at jeremy@shannonfabrics.com and I will send you a card personally. Please check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you used Ektachrome 100 on a Wolverine Digitizer, let me know. Or if you use Ektachrome 100 and got it properly telesend, let me know. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. All right, bye.